Hi, you, and welcome back to The Bridge. Happy Friday. I hope you are doing well. I hope you have had a splendid week. I know that things are already becoming hectic if you're in university right now because the first tests are coming up, the first assignments are coming up. But yeah, welcome and thank you for spending your time here. Today we are doing a commonly asked question where I answer a concern or just a random question that people have about university. So perhaps you have just started university, or you'll be going to university soon, or you're just wondering. Yeah, this is where we answer it. And if you have any other questions or a different perspective to the question that I'm going to answer today, please give it in the comments down below. So today's commonly asked question is, how much independent learning do I have to do at university? And the same question asked differently can be, how much self study do I have to do in university? And the answer to that question is, it really does depend. But the overall baseline is that the majority of learning that you do in university will by far be self-studying. And this is different to high school where, for example, you could sit in a class and the teacher would explain every single thing that you needed to know for the test, and you'd literally spend time page by page by page in a book learning everything. And as learners, as students in high school, we could literally we could depend on teachers, and then we would just study what we've already been taught and study what we've learned in class. But in university, that is switched around. So as a lecturer once explained to me, lectures are the skeleton. The way I perceive lectures is almost like it's a roadmap, right? So it highlights the most important things, it highlights the landmarks, it explains difficult concepts, but then you have to go on your own and literally study and fill in the blank spaces. I need to fill in everything else, and I do this by reading the textbook, by practicing, by learning about the concepts as I read them, by, if you're doing law, reading cases. It is really up to a students to fill in majority of everything else, basically. So all that is to say, majority of the learning that you do in university will be self-study. It will be independent learning where you sit in your room or you sit in the library and you read through your lecture notes and you read through textbooks and you practice, I don't know how things work in science, or where you do those things, and that's where the majority of your learning process will take place. So let's go back to the initial question. Well, how much time should I be spending? Like, how much? And once again, it depends person to person, depends on the module that you're doing. But a very technical way to determine how many hours you should be studying a week is by looking at the number of credits for that module. So if you look at the number of credits for that module, one credit is equal to 10 notional hours. So if you have a module that is 12 credits, then that means it needs 120 notional hours, which means 120 hours should be spent on that module for that given period that module is there, right? So for example, if you are doing a semester module that is 12 credits, that means 120 hours, 120 notional hours must be spent in that semester on that module. And so if you take lecture time, so let's say you have 40 hours of lectures in total, right? 120 is now 80 hours. So what else makes those hours? It's going to be independent study. I don't know what else goes into those notional hours, whether they calculate assignments or tutorials, or I don't know. Just know that even this concept implies that majority of the time that you spent will be independent self-studying and independent learning. So while I can't tell you exactly how many hours per day or per week you need to be spending while studying, I can tell you it's a lot. And I can give you these few questions in order to gauge whether or not you have been spending enough time doing independent studying. So the first question that I will ask is, do you feel prepared, right? And chances are, if you don't feel as prepared as you want to be prepared, then you've been spending too little time on that module. When you walk into a lecture hall or your friends are having a discussion about a module, are you able to understand what they're talking about? In other words, are you able to understand the concepts that they're talking about, or are you completely lost? If you are completely lost when your friends are talking about a certain module or when that module is being discussed in class, it could indicate that you are spending too little time on that module. Another question to ask yourself is, I know it's March, so you probably have written your first test or have submitted your first assignment or are just about to do so. So even if you haven't received your marks yet, I want you just to think about the experience of writing is, were you able to understand what was required from you? And if so, it's a good indication that, you're heading in the right direction. Even with assignments, were you able to understand the question that was being asked? Were you able to understand what was required from you or what information they wanted you to give? If you could, it's a good sign, but if you couldn't, it could be an indication that you were supposed to that you may have to spend more time studying that module. Another way that you could look is, of course, marks, right? The marks that you get. If the marks are not great, not good, not what you expected, it could indicate that you're meant to spend more time on that module. But if the marks are great, then it could mean that you're actually doing fine. However, if you are hearing these questions and you're saying, I spent a lot of time on that module, I studied, I read, I practiced, and I still don't understand. I still went into the test, into the exam, and I still could not understand what they wanted from me, or I got my marks back and they are just not as good as I wanted them to be, or I didn't do well at all, I failed, then there could be another problem. So the problem might not be that you're spending too little time on a module. It could be a completely different issue. So for example, let me just give examples of other issues that could be at play. Study methods, right? Perhaps, what we do is that we walk into university with the same study habits that we had in high school. And high school, I remember I used to cram for certain modules. Certain modules, it was like just memorize. Other modules, it was rewrite what is in the book. Like I would just like rewrite or like summarize. And the thing is, a huge part of university is learning how to learn. And it's about learning how to learning how to learn content, and the way that you learn at university might differ from course module to module, course to course. And so it might just be that the way that you're trying to retain the information or the way that you're trying to learn the information is not effective. So it's not about the time that you're spending, it's about the way that you're spending that time isn't actually conducive or isn't actually helping. So that's definitely one thing that could be at play is wrong study methods, or it just needs to be adjusted a little bit. I think to help with this, there are usually academic counselors that are there. You could talk to peers, friends, and ask them, how are you studying for this module? Or tutors could be of help. I don't know how helpful they will be. Just asking around, how do you study for this module? Remember how different people study differently. So what works for others might not work for you. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, so a counselor, academic counselor might be the best way, or just like YouTube ways to study and how effective it could be for you. So if you are spending a lot of time and you're still not seeing the results that you want, a really good thing to do is to book a consultation with the lecturer, because lecturers are, guys, lecturers were students too. Some lecturers have years of experience and they are usually able to identify what you're doing wrong. So I've sat in front of lecturers and been like, I don't understand why I didn't get this mark, and the lecturer was like, did you do this? And I was like, I did that. Yeah, you shouldn't actually be doing that. So book a consultation, speak to the lecturer, tell them, look, sir, prof, ma'am, I've been, I spent time studying for this test and the mark that I got just wasn't it. I don't understand why I'm not getting the marks that I want to, or why the result isn't as much as the effort that I'm putting into this module. And most lecturers are really willing to like help you take a few steps back and say, okay, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? Or maybe you could be doing this. And they can help you identify exactly what is wrong in your process of learning that module. If things aren't going as well as you want them to be going, don't give up hope. It's early days, it's March, you've just begun, you've just walked into university. Like, it's been a month, which is a good amount of time, but there is still a lot of hope and time to improve and to progress and to do better. Don't look down on yourself. Like this, it's just the beginning. So yeah, just ask for help when you need it and you will be fine. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you have an amazing weekend, restful, and I will see you in the next video.